So, welcome everybody tonight to our April Salt Talks. We begin our series for the month of April. We're going to be talking about future planning, preparing, planning, and saving. That this is always a difficult topic, especially when you are getting benefits. And you have all this going on, having, whether you're receiving benefits, trying to save some sort of, if your child gets a job or is looking at a job, you're trying to save money. You have SSI, SSDI, you might have Medicaid, all these things involved. And so we wanted to touch on this month the future preparing, planning, and saving, just to help you through how you navigate all this. So we'll be looking at all these topics this month. But tonight we have our guest speaker is Debi Schwartz. I've known Debbie a very long time. Um, Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's been a
Uh-huh.
short time, but a long time. We go back a little ways, and she's helped me navigate a lot of the questions I've had about Social Security.
Uh-huh.
And she's been very, it's been wonderful that she's been able to help so many parents over the years navigate this. So, I'm going to let Debbie introduce herself and tell her a little about yourself while I pull up the PowerPoint for tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, Patty. Great to be back with the Salt Talks again. Um, I've been, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Debi Schwartz. On the business end of it, I worked at the Social Security Administration for 39 years. The last 19 of which was only helping people with disabilities returning to work. And since April 1st of 2018, after I retired, I started working privately, and I do consultant work. I do contract work for OOD, the Opportunity for Ohioans with Disabilities. And I also help, um, that's not my PowerPoint, by the way.
It has this one.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
see.
switched it to
Um,
a PDF.
oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Um, and so, um, and so I do everything from do consulting work on when people should file for their retirement benefits to helping file the retirement claim or disability claim for those who want some assistance with that. To, like I said, doing some contract work to do benefit analysis reports for state VR. On the opposite side of all of that, not the personal side, I'm the parent of two children that are adults now that have disabilities. My son, who's 42, maybe 41, he'll be 42 this year, I think. Um, he turned blind, he went legally blind when he was 20. And then my younger son, who will be 36 this year, or this month. We adopted when he was 5 months old, and he is on the autism spectrum and has a seizure disorder. So I have seen the good, bad, and ugly from schools to transition counselors to state VR, anything that you can think of. I have experienced it. And I frequently wonder if I wasn't so connected with everybody I know in all of these agencies, how I would get through it. And so that's why one of my missions is to help other parents of adult children with disabilities or children with disabilities to navigate all of this so that you don't feel as lost as it would be easy to become when you, like Patty said, there's all these different organizations and all these different agencies and all these different benefits, and every one of them has their own set of rules, and you might be in compliance with one set of rules and not another, and so it makes it kind of frustrating. So on the next page, we'll talk a little bit about what our objectives are tonight. Um, Social Security has a lot of acronyms and a lot of rules. I want to break down some of that so it doesn't seem quite as scary. I'm going to spend a lot of time on the next slide and then with a handout that you can download on your own later, kind of breaking down the different kind of programs, learn how to qualify. And then once you do qualify, what can you still do and work? Because the rule is just because you're receiving a disability benefit, that doesn't mean you don't still want your child to work to whatever their capacity is. My younger son may never have a full-time job making 80,000 a year, but he really loves his part-time job at the nursing home where he works in the cafeteria, and he loves interacting with the residents, and he loves what he does, and he feels very productive about it, and he goes to work every day, Monday through Friday. And so for him, that's him living his best life. And so we want to show you how you can make those work incentives work for you and for your child with a disability so that they can have whatever their best life looks like. Next slide. Now, there are a few different benefits I'm going to go over here, and then Patty is so kind. She has one of the handouts for us to use. There are two different programs that Social Security administers, and this always throws people off. You'll hear people say, "Oh, I'm getting SSD," or "Oh, they're getting SSI," or, I don't know, or they're getting DAP. I mean, there's all these different acronyms, so I want to kind of break that down for you. On the Social Security disability side, if you have a parent who is receiving retirement benefits, disability benefits, or has passed away where the child can receive a survivor benefit, then they could receive, whether they have a disability or not, under age 18 and still in high school, or if there is high school up to age 19, whether they have a disability or not. If your child turns 18, has a disability, and you are receiving retirement or disability, or there's a parent who's passed that they could receive as a surviving child, um, they can receive as a disabled adult child if their disability occurred prior to age 22. They are not married, with a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, as long as they're not married, and they've not worked at a substantial level on their own past age 22. So basically, you would still consider them your legal dependent. On SSI, they can receive under 18 as a disabled child. Once they reach age 18, they are re-evaluated to see if they've met the adult criteria. And Patty, if you want to switch over to that transitional youth handout for just a second.
Can you see it okay?
Well, this is a handout that you'll have that you can look at, and it kind of breaks it down. The Social Security disability, or Social Security benefits, and how to receive on a parent's record. Or if they're a student that's not on benefits, we look to see whether or not they have worked and paid into Social Security on their own. Maybe they've had part-time jobs through high school. Doesn't take a whole lot when you're under 21 to earn enough quarters to get a Social Security disability check, and you could do it that way, or receiving the childhood disability, being over 18 but becoming disabled prior to age 22. Um, and then, as it says on there, when they're receiving those benefits, they're going to receive all the Social Security work incentives that we're going to go over later. And then on the SSI, or Supplemental Security Income, which is in the second category, initial eligibility, if they're under 18, they can draw with the disability, but parent income counts. And so sometimes that knocks our children out, and they have to wait until they are above Um, they're above 18, and the month following the month they turn 18, they can draw on their own. And mom and dad's income doesn't count anymore. If they're over 18 and under age 22 and they're still in school, there's a special student earned income exclusion that we're going to go over later, which is a great work incentive for great work incentive for them to work while they're still in school or defer diploma to age 22 so that they can get that work experience either through Project Life or Project Search. Maybe it's through the vocational school or some other program through OOD, where they're staying in the school and then have some part-time work. Um, okay, back to the PowerPoint. Okay, next slide. We can kind of go through these pretty quickly. Those are the student benefits. If you're receiving under age 18 up to age 19 because you're receiving um, benefits on your parents' record just because you're a student as a dependent child, you do not have to be disabled. And it's $1,240 a month. I don't know where I came up with 12,040. Obviously, that is a mistake on the PowerPoint when I fixed it today. And can draw up to age 19. Okay, the next slide. I have to fix that. Okay. If when the child turns 18, even if they're still in high school, we want to file that disability application for them, so that they can demonstrate that their disability occurred prior to age 22 and have that dependent check continue. If for some reason um, they need special attendant care at home and the parent is not working a full-time job and is staying home to provide that, every now and again they can get child and care benefits. Usually when the parent, a young mom has children receiving social security benefits with their dependent children, when the youngest child turns 16, their benefit ends because social security feels as though you don't need to stay at home with them anymore after the youngest turns 16. However, if you have a child with a disability or an adult child who needs you to stay home and provide substantial care, you can apply for child and care benefits to have that benefit continue, even when your youngest child turns 16, so that you can stay home and take care of that child. Okay? And then if there is no parent receiving benefits, and the young adult has not worked and paid into Social Security on their own through part-time jobs, then we would look at SSI disability benefits. And again, as it indicates here, if they're under 18, mom and dad's income and assets are going to count. Over 18, it's only their income or assets that are going to count. Do I have any questions before we go on?
I have a question. I'm really confused by SSDI. You're saying that a parent, like, I'm confused exactly what you mean by the disabled adult child. Like,
Okay, so if you've got a mom or dad who are receiving disability benefits on their own or retirement benefits, or maybe one of the parents has passed away, the the disabled child, even if they're over 18, if their disability occurred prior to age 22, and that can be documented through medical records, they could receive benefits on that parent's record. I see it a lot. Maybe they're on SSI for a long time, and then mom or dad retire. I have a case I'm taking tomorrow where, the I'm taking the SSI application with them tomorrow, but dad is retiring in December, and then he'll switch over onto dad's record. He's in his late 30s now, and dad is just retiring, but he's been disabled since birth. He's never worked above the substantial limit. And he's never gotten married. So he's still considered a legal dependent on his father's record. So when dad goes to file for retirement benefits, he will be eligible to file for childhood disability benefits or disabled adult child benefits. It's called both things on his father's record. And if you're wanting to know what that looks like dollar wise, look at, if you ever get a statement from Social Security and it says your full retirement age amount is such and such, it's 50% of that amount. So it's usually much more than they'll get on their SSI benefit, and they can make more money and keep that check.
So that is why that child that you were mentioning that you're working on the case now is going to do that, is because they'll get more money than they are currently getting from SSI.
And after, yes, yes. Yeah, because dad pay, in this particular case, dad made maximum earnings all throughout. So his benefit amount is $4,000. So this kid's going to be eligible for $2,000 a month, whereas SSI is like $994 a month right now for the max
Gotcha.
SSI.
Thank you.
Also, after 2 years, he'll be eligible for Medicare. And there's some ways you can keep the Medicaid. So, I mean, it really is just a good way to provide them with extra money. My younger son and my older son worked a lot and paid in. So he actually even worked for Social Security for over 10 years after his vision went, till he had other health issues and had to stop. But my younger son receives disabled adult child benefits on my husband's record, and he started doing that after my husband filed for retirement benefits. So it was a big
Yeah.
conversation in our house. Do we take it to 62, or do we wait, until like retirement age? Or, what do we do? And part of that calculation was how much extra is Andrew going to receive by drawing on his dad's record.
Yeah.
Does that clarify it?
Yeah, somewhat. That makes it a lot more clear. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
We have one more question.
yes.
Can an adult child file for SSDI when the parent is still working?
The parent has to be receiving a check because they're only entitled when the parent is entitled. So to receive a disabled adult child benefit or childhood disability benefit, mom or dad have to be receiving or have to be deceased if they're receiving as a survivor. So if they turn 22, they turn 18 or they turn 22, neither mom or dad are receiving retirement benefits, they're not receiving disability benefits, and they're both still alive and working, then the answer is not at that time. Wait until mom or dad file for retirement, and then we want to take an application for that child. In the meantime, they may qualify for the SSI disability, which will pay benefits until something else better comes along.
I have a question.
And the reason that I talk about that is because a lot of times, if both parents are working, you're not going to see that necessarily when they're 22 or when they're 18. That I just want you to know that that's out there, so that if something happens, that's something you've got to be looking for, because a lot of times it's forgotten. They'll ask the question, do you have any children under 18? No. 18, 19 still in high school? No. Any children that are over 18 that I have that are receiving disabled? You'd be surprised how many parents don't think about it to say yes. So by bringing it up now, I'm making you aware that that's something that you want to make sure that you remember to put in your back pocket for later.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
For a child disabled since birth receiving SSI at age 18, do those benefits stop abruptly at 18 while the process of reapplying occurs?
No.
Okay.
Their benefits will continue while that medical decision is being made.
Okay.
And there's also a rule that says that if they're still in school and they're under an IEP, then even if they're found to not meet the adult criteria, they'll keep their check going until they age out and that IEP ends.
Okay.
So as to not pull the rug out from underneath them.
Good. Good to know. Thank you.
And that information is on that sheet. It's called Section 301 provisions, and it is on that transitional use sheet.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions before we go on? No, it does not affect the parent's amount at all. Because there's the amount for the worker and then there's a family amount. And so this comes from the family amount, not the worker's amount. Anything else? Okay. The next one is just a really funky graphic that says, how do we get started? So we'll go to the next page. This is what I want you to understand. Please, please, please do not wait until you've applied for guardianship and it has been approved to apply for benefits. Guardianship can take forever. Sometimes you don't even want to apply for guardianship. You do not have to have guardianship in order to file disability application for your child with a disability. You can assist your child in applying for the benefit. They have to sign everything. But then when Social Security gets that disability approval back and it shows that they're not capable of managing their own benefit amount, then Social Security can appoint you as representative payee. And that provides you with the authority to receive the check for them on their behalf. And you can go from there. To be honest with you, I have power of attorney for my son, my younger son, which I know Social Security does not recognize, but it takes care of me for everything else. I don't even have guardianship on my son, but I am his representative payee. His Social Security check comes to me every month. I'm the one that administers it. And it's funny, I was just saying to Patty before we started today, and it must be that time of year because I got something in the mail yesterday saying it's time to give an annual accounting of how I've used his money. So they do check with you periodically once a year and say, okay, how did you spend that money? Did you save any? And so that's something I have to fill out this week. But you can do that and not have to deal with probate court and the guardianship attorney and all that other awful stuff. Now, I'm not trying to diminish it because there are other reasons to file for guardianship, and you may feel that you need to do that. But I have people who will call me and say, okay, I want to set up an appointment for you to take the application for us, but I don't have the paperwork back from probate court for the guardianship yet. I don't want you to wait for that. I want you to go ahead and file right away. It takes Social Security now 5 to 6 months to make a medical decision. We don't need to be waiting on guardianship papers because especially with SSI, it's from the month you file forward. So if you wait 6 months, you've just wasted 6 months worth of potential benefits. Next page. Okay. How to file an application. This way tells you, okay, so there's a couple of ways. Number one, you can call the toll-free number that's on that page, 1-800-772-1213, and make an appointment. When you call, and we'll go over that on the next page, but when you call, they're going to be asking a bunch of questions. The appointment takes about an hour and a half. Social Security has to do several of these a day, so they're going to try to get you in and out of there pretty quickly. But they will do that application for you and mail for that your adult child to sign. Or if your child is with you, they can attest it over the telephone. Not for SSI, you cannot. The question is, can you apply at 17 and a half since it takes, no, because the 17 and a half mom and dad's income still counts. You have to wait till the month after the month they turn 18 for SSI. Social Security is a different animal. The answer is yes. But for SSI, it's the month following the month they turn 18. If you don't want a telephone appointment or you don't want to call 1-800 number and make an appointment to either do it by telephone or to do it in person at your local Social Security office, you can go to socialsecurity.gov or ssa.gov. Both work. Click on disability, click on apply, click on SSI, and fill in the blank. You will need to try to set up a My Social Security account ahead of time. Now that they've gone to id.gov, it's not very user-friendly. They'll have you upload a picture as you're going through it. They have you upload a picture of your driver's license or ID, their ID on the front and then on the back. And then they have to do one of those Apple ID facial recognition pictures for them. And so it takes a lot. My mom had the old kind of account. They converted it. They wanted to convert it. And so now I know why all my parents complain about it. But you can do that. There are ways around it if you can't get that set up, but you can apply online and you can do it all yourself. It asks at the beginning, it asks a lot of general information, name, address, social security number, where were you born, that kind of thing. Did you work? Did you work outside the country? Did you ever file for workers' comp? And then it asks all the disability questions. List your disabilities, list your medical sources, name, address, and phone number of all your sources. All of that information, and you can do it yourself. There is a third way, and that is to hire me to do it for you. Since I know the question will come up, I charge $175. That's the prep call. That's helping you work on the homework. That's taking the application no matter how long it takes, and then helping you follow up if you need to afterwards. But I know not everybody has $175. And so the first two ways, either make calling toll-free number or doing it through the website yourself, are both free. Basically, when I do it for you, I go into the website, pretend to be you. Okay, next. What do you need to have in order to file that application? You do not have to have the medical records and school records, but you need the name, address, and phone number of the physicians that will have them. Pediatrician, current doctor, physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech and language therapist, psychiatrist, any doctor that is going to have any medical records at all that's going to substantiate all the disabilities that you've listed. If they've seen 14 doctors at Children's Base, then you list Children's Hospital under hospitals. And then in the comments where it says what were they treated for and where were they seen, you can list all the different departments that they went into. Um, Major testing. I don't know that they necessarily need to know if Johnny had an x-ray on his broken wrist that he got in second grade. But if one of his disabilities has to do with a bone or an area where a lot of x-rays or MRIs or CAT scans are done, they're going to want to know when were they done? Where were they done? Approximately when were they done? If it was done more than once, you list the first time, and then there's a box, a magical box that says this test was done by this place more than once. And then you click on that, and you don't have to list all the different dates. Medications. Be prepared. That's this, all this is homework when I'm the one doing it for you, so that you're not reading that bottle and spelling out that 14 letter generic medication, with mostly vowels, over the phone. I have it in front of me and I can go. And if they did have any work history, name, address, and telephone number of where they worked and approximately when. You'll notice everything is in small letters, except at the end, there's one capitalized. It says, complete remarks section. When I worked at Social Security, I noticed that, like you've been on the phone with somebody for an hour, 15 minutes, you get to the very last question, which is there anything else you want us to know? They are so ready to get off of that telephone. They say, no, I think you've got everything. That remark section could be the most important question on the disability application. Why is that? Well, if your child has a meltdown, they get overwhelmed being around people or being around too many people or noise. I know an individual who can't be around a lot of people because noise and clanging in restaurants or whatever, and they have a meltdown. In their case, a meltdown looks like them falling on the floor, putting their hand over their ears and screaming, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. Somebody else's meltdown might look different. They may storm out and go hit a tree or hit a car or store up to the room and close their door and not talk to anybody for 4 hours. They're not going to find that in a medical report. But boy, if you have somebody who's auditorily overstimulated or could be tactily overstimulated, it's important for them to know that, and that may or may not manifest itself in a medical report. But they sure as heck are going to need to know that before they say, oh, Johnny can go get a job at a restaurant. No, he can't. Johnny can't be around people. So you want to make sure you use that remarks section to specify what it is that is impacting their daily life, that may not show up in a medical report. My younger son, I love him to death, but he can walk out in the middle of winter in a t-shirt and shorts because he doesn't think about clothes. He has to be reminded sometimes, oh, you need to put a jacket on or you need to put long pants on. If that's the case, you need to put that in there because they're not going to see that in the medical record. But that might be important depending upon what job they think that your child can do, because we want to make sure that that information is imparted to the medical experts who are going to be making the medical decision. Any question about the application process? Okay. No? Okay. Then let's go on to the next slide. Now we're going to talk, from this point forward, we are going to assume that your child is now receiving a Social Security or SSI benefit. So then the question becomes, How much can they earn and not lose their check? Or how much can they earn and not lose their Medicaid? Or now they're on a waiver. What do I do about that? So this is a general overview. We don't need to go to the 2-page handout. It's a 2-sided handout. But there is a handout that I've provided that basically spells out on one side every work incentive that's an SSDI work incentive. And on the other side, it's all the SSI work incentives with examples of each so that you're familiar with what the situation is. And then you go to whichever one your child is receiving. Now, there are some, because SSI is a supplemental security income. Somebody may be receiving a Social Security disability, an SSDI check, and maybe they didn't work and pay in a whole lot. Mom or dad haven't retired yet, so their disability benefit on their own record is very little. It's under the $990 some. So what you do is they get an SSI check to supplement them up to the full amount of the SSI. In that case, the Social Security check is going to fall under the work rules for SSDI, and the work rules for SSI are going to apply to the SSI check. So you may have 2 sets of rules to play with, and that's why I have them each on one page. If you don't see that work incentive on that page, then you know it doesn't apply to that particular account. So let's go over this briefly, and then I'm going to open it up for, we'll go on. On the Social Security side, and you're going to see why it's so, it's kind of nice once they're on the Social Security disability side. The first 9 months that they work, they can make as much money as they want. And they have to make over $1,210 to even trigger a trial work period month. So if your son or daughter is earning $200 a week, working part-time, they're not even using a trial work period month. They can make that $200 a week and still draw their full Social Security check. Nothing is deducted, nothing is lost, and they're able to continue. After that period is over, there's how with the ABLE account rules, that's totally separate, and we'll go over the ABLE account at the end. They can make as much as they want. After that 9 month, the next 36 months, in the extended period of eligibility, and they need to earn less than $1,690 in order to keep a check. If they're making more than that gross, and we'll go over some special allowances for that can bring that amount down. But if they're earning over that, it's possible or very likely that their Social Security check would go into suspense for any month that they're making over $1,690 a month. But they're entitled to Medicare for up to 93 months after the 9-month trial work period. So that's 8.5 years. So maybe they find a really great job and they're making really great money. And even with assistance and everything else, they're making over $1,690, but the health insurance stinks. They're going to still get to keep that Medicare if they want. You'll notice there's something at the bottom there that says expedited reinstatement. That's really important to me because after the 36-month period, if you're still able to make over the $1,690, the cash check goes from suspense to terminated. Again, the extended Medicare is going to keep going for several more months, so like 4.5 more years. But then if within 5 years you can't work anymore, and you have still have that primary disability that you had to begin with, you can get your check back for up to 6 months while they update the medical evidence. So you're never going to have a time where you don't have money coming in if you don't have that job. And I think that's a wonderful safety net where you can be whatever you can be, knowing the Social Security is always going to be there for you. Now, SSI, because it is a program based on financial need, runs under a lot of the same rules that Medicaid and food stamps do. So it is not nearly as lucrative. There's the first $20 of any income is not counted. The first $65 of wages is not counted, and half of the remainder is not counted. The rest is subtracted off of your SSI check. So, for example, if you made $385 gross in a month and you had no other income, minus 20 minus 65 leaves 300, divided by 2 is 150. You'll have your $385 in wages, but your SSI will go down by $150. 1619B. I put that on there because maybe you work, again, you find a great job. You're making so much that your SSI check, when you do the minus 20, minus 65, divide by 2, brings that math formula, brings that SSI check down to 0. You can still remain technically eligible and make close to $50,000 and still maintain your Medicaid under the 1619B rules. That basically says that if your SSI check only went to 0 because of your wages, you get to keep your Medicaid. And they also have the expedited reinstatement. So again, if something happens, you're not working anymore, you get that check back right away. And so again, it's a great safety net there. Any questions about that before we move on? Okay, let's go to the next one. Allowances are made in special situations, and I want you to be on both Social Security and SSI. So when you look at that two-sided sheet, you'll notice impairment-related work expenses are on both sides. What is that? That's an out-of-pocket expense that you have to pay in order to maintain your condition so that you can go to work. Maybe it's the psychiatrist or a physical therapist that's not covered by your Medicaid or Medicare, but you need it in order to maintain your health. I had a young man once where, I don't know if it was Medicaid or OOD paid for his original wheelchair, but when he needed new tires or inner tubes or new egg crate cushions for the seat, he had to pay for them out of his own pocket. So if he made, let's say on Social Security, he made $1,800, but he spent $150 out of his own pocket that month on all of those wheelchair supplies, well, then we only count $1,650. That's under the 1690. So he get to keep his check, even though he earned over $1,690. And it's because Social Security allows that to be subtracted. It's worked into the math formula on the SSI side, and that's on the sheet that I provided to you can have. Subsidized work in special conditions. This is only on the Social Security disability side, but I want you to be aware that we have individuals who may be working janitorial staff someplace where they're working 40 hours a week or 38 hours a week, making $16 an hour. That's over $1,690 a month, but it's highly supervised. They're always redirected. There's somebody on staff that redirects them. And so if you take that additional accommodation into account, maybe they're really only doing 70% of the work that a person without a disability would do, or they're doing it 70%, they're doing it 30% slower. So Social Security, if we get verification of that, and there are forms for that, to prove that or to get that documented by the employer, you can take that off. So even if you're making $2,000 a month gross, but you're subsidized or supported by, say, 25%, then they only count $1,500 of your gross wages, not 2,000. They take that 25% off. So again, those are all questions for the job coach or the job developer at the time. Are they going to have a long-term job coach? Are they doing all the same job tasks that a person without a disability would be doing? What is the value of that extra help that they are receiving? Because that can be subtracted off. Special transportation expenses is another great one. Maybe, like my son has the waiver that pays the cab that gets him to and from his part-time job. But I know of individuals who have to pay for an Uber twice a week. Maybe mom and dad can only take them to work but can't pick them up, or vice versa. So they take an Uber home. That Uber cost is because of their disability. So they can subtract that off of their wages before finding out whether or not they're above or below. Or in the case of SSI, it means that they get to keep more of their SSI check. So it's really important to be aware that you need to keep track of those things so that if one of those situations applies, then to allow you can do that. Okay. You can click through quickly because the other one is just sort of like a break point where it says special work incentives. Next. Okay. I've been talking to you about, oh no, go back one. Thank you. If there's an individual who is legally blind, and I'm not advocating for you to be legally blind, however, they have a higher SGA limit. Instead of the $1,690 limit, they can make up to $2,830. They had a great lobbyist when it came time to set these rules back in the 50s, I guess. And on SSI, you'll notice it on the worksheet that I provided. It's in the third column. Not only can they take those impairment-related work expenses, but they can take meals they consumed at work, any transportation cost, city, state, local taxes, Social Security taxes, federal and state taxes. And so you can have somebody who, I think in the example I have on the sheet, is somebody who earns $1,000 a month. I put them in Cincinnati where there's a city tax. And I think at the time I did this, I did like $5 a day or $6 a day for lunch, which would be more than that now. They would only have their SSI check reduced by $7 because of all the deductions. So again, if statutory blindness is one of your children's disabilities, you want to make sure that they are aware of that when you're filing for benefits. Next. This is my favorite work incentive, student earned income exclusion. Back in the day, and I mean, this is prior to 2000, you could only, they had a student income exclusion that was $400 a month up to $1,620 a year. And that basically took care of the old JTPA $100 a week for 16 weeks during the summer for disadvantaged youth. And it allowed them to earn that money that they could save for school clothes or whatever they wanted, and get some job experience during the summer without it disadvantaging or taking money away from their SSI check. Because if they took money away from their SSI check, mom and dad who used that to pay the bills, were not going to let them do this. So they finally got smart after the ticket to work legislation went in, and they made this pretty substantial work incentive. If you are on SSI disability benefits and you are under age 22 and still regularly attending school, So that would include deferring diploma and going to vocational school. That would include Project Life or Project Search. As long as you've not physically, you can walk with your class, but you don't physically pick up that diploma until age 22, this exclusion works for you. They can earn up to $2,410 per month to $9,730 a year and never have one dime reduced from their SSI check. The minus 20, minus 65 divide by 2 goes out the window within those parameters. So it's a great way of doing work studies. You know, if you're working with OOD, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disability, you're working with your local DD board, you get a little work study program, you're working part-time at Kings Island, or, you know, some other job where you're going to work during the summer, you can make quite a bit before that SSI check is going to be reduced. And it really gives them an opportunity to try out different jobs, test different things that they may want to do, and still be able to draw their SSI check. I know I had a fight with my son's school because I wanted him to go through 4 years of regular high school, then do the 2 years of vocational school, and then finished up with Project Search. And they're like, well, yeah, but he could do that program in the high school. And I'm like, no, we're going to do 4 years of school. Then we'll do the vocational. Then we'll do Project Search. And he graduated or picked up his diploma a month after he turned 22. So we kept that student earning income exclusion on the table for him. I think it's very important to give him that opportunity. And he was smart enough to understand. You know, he helped me one night. I won't go into the long story because we're already at almost 7 o'clock. But he had an opportunity to earn a little bit of money one night. And in the 2 or 3 hours we were doing it, I had given him some of my tip money. I was helping somebody wait tables at a restaurant they had. And he was bussing the tables and being dishwasher. And I didn't realize it, but the owner paid him as well. I didn't think the owner was going to pay him, which was why I was giving him my tip money. When he got out in that 20-minute drive home, he called no less than 7 friends and said, "You're not going to believe this, but I've made $70 tonight doing nothing but washing some stupid dishes. Can you believe this?" The very next day after church, we took him to Best Buy and I let him waste every penny on video games and music CDs and whatever he wanted. There was time later for him to understand saving, and he does now. Now, when he doesn't want to part with a penny of his money that he's earning, he's very frugal. But he understood, I want to work because the more I work, the more money I make. And the more money I make, the more movies I can go see. Or the more, you know, I can get a Zoom membership. Or, I mean, he understands that. You know, even though he's neurodivergent and on the spectrum and has some issues, he can still figure out the more I work, the more money I have, the more things I can do. And that's what the student earned income exclusion does, is gives them a safety net for doing that. Okay, next.
Can I ask a quick question about that slide?
Uh-huh.
This might be a naive, silly question, but when it says 2,410 per month and 9,730 per year, that means that that child or student or whatever can make that much money doing their work study program or whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
And then collect the 962 a month on top of that. Is that what that means? Is
Well,
that
it's
what you're
990 some now, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's okay. I just want to make sure I understood it correctly. Thank you.
No. When I say it's my favorite work incentive, that's why. You know, I will apologize if you go to my website, getSSAhelp.com. There is a handout on there for student earned income exclusion in action. I will apologize. All the numbers are probably 4 years old, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and some things had to drop off my bandwidth. And keeping my website pretty pristine and up to date is one of the things that has gone off the deep end. But I basically show in there where your student can work 30, 32 hours a week during the summer months and 16 hours a week during the school year and almost lose zero SSI. I mean, and you can go to the website and like I said, it's old, it's under free forms. It's under SEIE, stands for Student Earned Income Exclusion. The dates are old, the dollar amounts you can earn are old, but the concept is the same. And it really is a great way for them to get that work study information. And then after they make more than that, then it's the -20, -65, divide by 2 for the rest. But I mean, they can make a lot of money in a year without having to worry about it. And the other thing to keep in mind is they are doing those work studies and they are earning those quarters of Social Security coverage. They could eventually work their way onto a Social Security benefit where they can then make as much money as they want for 9 months and up to $1,690 a month forever and never lose their Social Security check unless they aren't disabled anymore. So I mean, it is a win-win-win from every standpoint. Next question or next slide. I only want to touch on this briefly, but it's a good reason to have a case open with OOD. When your child is getting ready to turn 18, they usually start working with the school system when your kid's 17 or 17 and a half. But if your child is on SSI as a child and they will have that medical review when they turn 18, even if Social Security, and you can appeal it, okay, but even if Social Security says, we don't find that you meet the adult criteria because it's easier to get on as a child than it is as an adult. If you have an open case with state DR or you have an IEP that includes a specific career goal. So it's Johnny likes cars. Johnny wants to get a job as a race car driver. Johnny can't drive. That's not going to be a specific career goal. But if you say Johnny loves cars, Johnny wants to be around cars. He wants to work at Kentucky International Speedway, in the concession stand so he can be around cars, or he wants to be a janitor in the pit crew. And so he's taking math classes or he's doing whatever so that once he has all of this,
like in your room and the garage and the front here, they're in brick.
I'm sorry. Oh, I could hear somebody talking. I wasn't sure where that was coming from. But if it shows, the IEP shows they have a specific career goal, they can keep that SSI check going, even if they have found medically to not qualify up until that IEP ends or they reach age 22. So I think that's really important to know. So when you go in to do that interview, that age 18 medical redetermination, you want to make sure you tell them they have an IEP. And if they have a case open with state DR, you want to tell them they have a case open with state DR. Okay, next slide. We're wrapping up to the end here. Then I'm going to open it up to questions. Ticket to work. I have a lot of people talk about ticket to work. All that really means is it offers you additional opportunities to receive help in returning or obtaining work. And if you are receiving adult disability benefits, whether Social Security or SSI, and you sign a contract with, say, OOD or a different employment network to help you with that vocational goal, they don't even look to see if you've medically recovered. They're going to continue to check anyway. while you make certain benchmarks or hit certain thresholds to try to go back to work. But in some states, Ohio is really good about having OOD with very little or no waiting list. But there are states where State DR has a 2 or 3 year waiting list. So you can always go to Social Security's website, ssa.gov, click on Ticket to Work, and it'll tell you which organizations or agencies, in addition to State VR, are available in your zip code or your county or your state, however you want to do the search, to let you know who is out there who can help your son or daughter to return to work. Next slide real quick. Partners in transition. I put this in here because I just want you to be aware of all of the people. It really does take a village for our kids. And I want you to be aware of all of the different people that you should be able to tap. Under Social Security, I know they are very short-staffed right now, especially a little bit over a year ago. Somebody came in and cleaned house and told people retire, we're going to lay you off. So we lost a lot of institutional knowledge in the agency. And I know of a local in Ohio Social Security office that went from 20 people down to 9. And 2 of them are constantly getting pulled to answer the national toll-free number calls. So it makes it very hard when you're trying to go into the office and get anything done. But there are these people, they are available to help answer your questions. And these are some other people that can help you as well. I will try my best if you send me an email. We can go to past questions slide and get to the last one where I say thank you. Because then my website is on there. The best way to get a hold of me is to email me. Get ssahelp@gmail.com. Please don't text me. I have so many political people send me money requests. I don't say that I ignore my text messages. I try to clean it up once a week, but I'm going to have Kathleen in a second ask her question because I can only read part of it. But anyway, the best way to get a hold of me is to email me. Sometimes at night when I'm sitting in the chair watching TV, I will thumb through my emails to set up for what I'm going to do the next day. And I really do try, Patty can tell you, I really do try to respond to everybody's questions within 24 hours. I don't charge for asking questions. So if you send me an email tomorrow and say, hey, I thought of this question, I'm not going to bill you for it. So feel free to do it. If I'm going to do anything with any length of time or help you fill out forms, we may negotiate something. But I'm a parent of kids with a disability, and I understand there's not a lot of places you can go and get somebody to help you. Okay, so the person that was asking me, can I talk about something with the CDBs? It didn't stay up long enough and I couldn't see the whole question. So can you just ask your question?
This is Kathleen. I was asking about navigating the SSI payment and this idea that if your disabled adult continues to live with a family member, then you have to be able to show that they are then going to start to pay rent once SSI is in place.
Okay. This is the age-old question. I really, really wish that Social Security, there had been talk during COVID that they were going to change this, and they changed it a little bit to not count food as much, but it still is not where I want it to be. SSI has a concept. Please understand the politicians who wrote these rules on SSI back in 1973, when Social Security took SSI over from being administered by Job and Family Services. That's when it happened. Um, they have no touch with reality. I'm sorry, they just don't. So their feeling was that if you had full rental liability, you would need more money than if you did not have rental liability. Therefore, you have the SSI check of $996. And if you have rental liability, and if you don't have rental liability, you get 2/3 of that. So it's 600 and some dollars. Okay, so the question is, how do I get them that full 900 and some dollars? When you're first applying, it is really hard, unless they have income from another source, to say, Johnny's paying me $550 a month in rent, because he doesn't have any money. Remember, when he's 18, your income doesn't count anymore. So he doesn't have any money. So it's hard to say he's paying rent. So sometimes they will let you say we have a contract that says at the point that he turns 18, he owes us $550 a month for rent. This is to cover a flat fee. Notice that term, flat fee, room and board, to cover his room and board, his rental. This is my landlord-tenant relationship, my rental agreement with my child. Most of the time, that doesn't go anywhere. However, once they start receiving that benefit, they're getting to 600 and some dollars, you can then go back to them and say, now that he has income, he's paying us a flat fee rent of $550 a month, something reasonable. Don't say 100, don't say 200. Don't tell them what you're going to do with the money. Don't say, well, we're going to take that money and put it in a stable account. Please don't. What you do with this money once the tenant pays the landlord can do with it whatever they wanted. Anybody had asked me when my son was, quote unquote, paying me rent, I was using it to pay a cell phone, put money in the stable account. I mean, buy his Kings Island pass and his zoo pass and everything else. But they didn't need to know that. That was none of their business. As far as they knew, he was paying for rent, and that was it. There's an easier way to do it called fair share, but it's hard for a lot of parents. I mean, if you have a decent sized mortgage and mortgage insurance, you've got your home insurance and your property taxes and your utility bills, and you add those up and you divide that by the number of people in the household, fair share would be his share of that. But a lot of people, if they have a good mortgage or maybe they have a second mortgage, I know we had to take a second mortgage out on our house at one point to pay for the medical bills. We were traveling all over with my son with a vision problem, trying to find a way to keep him from going blind. Well, so they counted that second mortgage. Well, why should he be penalized? Because we needed to get extra money so we could help my older son try to keep him from going blind. So we went to there is a provision in the policy that says they are paying a fair landlord tenant flat fee rent. You can use that. Now they're going to ask you, depending upon where you are, and if you're in Butler County, you're going to get asked. So I don't know, maybe some of you are in someplace other than Butler County. But those two Social Security offices are notorious for hating this rule. So they're going to make it hard on you. And I'm sorry for that. But they're going to ask things like, if you were renting to a non-relative, would you charge the same amount of money? You must say yes. And here's how you can justify it. If my best friend from LA wanted their child to go to college in my town, and they were going to rent out space in my house, how much would I charge my best friend to rent out space in my house? $500 seems fairly reasonable to me. And yes, that's what I would charge. If you can say that honestly, and Obviously, if you live in Indian Hill and they're living in the guest house, it's got 4 bedrooms, you're not going to be able to say that. You're going to just, but for the most part, you could reasonably say 500, $550. That's something they can reasonably pay out of their SSI check and still have a little bit of money left over for spending money. And then you can get that check increase. So you go in, they're getting the lower amount, and you go in, you say, now that they have income, our agreement always was that once they had income, they were going to pay us rent. He's now getting rent, and as of this month, we charged him $500 or $550. Here's proof. We want his check to be increased. Takes 2 months for the increase to happen because income counts 2 months down the road, but you can get that increased.
That's super helpful. So we basically put it like create a rental agreement, have them sign
Yes.
it, and then we then track them paying for a couple months and then go back
Yep.
and say,
Yep.
okay, that's very helpful. I really appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. Like I said, I hate that rule. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world because more time is spent doing tracking that than anything. But we have to play the game the way they set up the rules. And right now, that's how the rules are set up.
Okay. Thank you.
I have
On to
another
the police.
question.
Sure.
Okay, I'm referring back to your VR section 301 slide.
Uh-huh.
And you mentioned that if the child is already getting benefits before they turn 18.
Yes.
I'm confused how a child would already be getting benefits before they're 18 unless it's SSDI.
No, it's SSI. You
Okay.
can receive SSI disability benefits as a newborn. If you're a preemie and you're going to be in the NICU for 8 months or 8 weeks or whatever, Children's Hospital will apply for disability benefits for you under SSI. Because you're in the hospital, you're only going to get $30 a month. But SSI, remember, SSI automatically gets you Medicaid in the state of Ohio. So not only, it's not just that $30 a month, it's that Medicaid that's going to pay that hospital bill.
But SSI, if the child, okay, if my child has two working parents that would not qualify for any financial reasons, he
That's
could,
right. Then they're not going to qualify. So that's not going to happen for them.
okay, so it would only be if they were below the threshold because they have to use
That
their
is
parents'
right.
income.
Right.
Okay.
Only one working parent because maybe the other parent has to stay home to care for that child. Maybe there's another 2 or 3 children in the household. So when they look at the household income, maybe they're still eligible for $300 or $400 a month in SSI.
Gotcha. But then once he turns 18, he can apply because then he's only using his income.
That's right. They will reevaluate to make sure that he or she makes the medical decision or criteria for an adult. And then it's based on their income, not mom and dad's.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Debbie, I'm
Next.
I'm going to go ahead and close the recording at this point in case there's someone that wants to
Okay.
ask a question without it being recorded. And again, I want to thank you for your presentation, and we will have the link to all of to this presentation and the worksheet she was referring to. We'll put that link in the chat, and then you can download them from there. So 1 second while I close this one, I'll stop it and stop the recording. Okay.